Dependable, durable machinery your farm needs. When you're thinking of haying, turn to the reliability and convenience of the Case 8400 series round balers or the 8500 series rectangular balers. For the uncompromising best in mid-range utility tractors, see the Case Maxim series. And for smaller tractors that earn their keep, count on the 95 series tractors. Case Power and Equipment's professional staff back up the Case IH commitment to quality. Case Power and Equipment in Steinbach.
High on the rooftops, this is MTN.
Tonight in Winnipeg, a pair of protests over a new city budget, taking on racism in Manitoba classrooms, and back to Bosnia, Canadian troops return to a war zone.
From the Manitoba Television Network, MTN Pulse News at 10 with Tom Negaman.
Good evening, everyone. Our top story tonight, a day of protest in Winnipeg, the fallout from the proposed city budget. Angry Winnipeggers gathered at City Hall late today, hoping to make their feelings known to Mayor Susan Thompson. These protesters say her budget hits the little guy the hardest, with increases in bus fares and hikes in user fees. A group of 20 tried without success earlier tonight to get a meeting with the mayor.
The receptionist said that she was in a meeting, and so that we could speak with one of her assistants, Mr. Grant by name, and we did speak to him. However, what I found interesting was that I would assume that her meeting ended while we were there, because the receptionist said to the security officer that was there that the mayor would be leaving by the back door. Now, we were in the mayor's office, so it seems that either she was not too keen on talking to us or speaking with us, or that maybe she would think that we're not important.
And North End residents came out swinging this afternoon in an attempt to stop the closure of St. John's Library. This group presented a petition to the Lord Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee. It calls for the 79-year-old library to stay open. The city's proposed budget calls for the closure of 6 libraries, most of them in the inner city. The group says that will increase illiteracy and poverty in an already poor area.
Or a donut with nothing in the middle. The North End, as you can see, is rising up against this attack on the inner city by the suburban or the uncaring mindset. The recommendation to close St. John's Library is made by people who have the money for books, an attack on those with little disposable income with no books.
In other news tonight, RCMP are still investigating a fire they believe may have been racially motivated. Police say the blaze broke out early yesterday morning, destroying a barn near Fraserwood. A house on the property was also broken into. Graffiti in the form of racial slurs and swastikas were painted inside. The home's owned by a couple who immigrated from Yugoslavia in the late 1950s. Damage is estimated at about $200,000. No one was injured in the fire. Meanwhile, efforts are underway to fight racism in Manitoba classrooms. Teachers are trying to send the right messages to students at an early age, as our Betsy Goldberg reports.
If you don't challenge them directly when they come up, they get repeated, and people think that it's all right, but it's hard to do.
Okay, so what would you say in a case like this?
These teachers are learning how to confront racist attitudes in their classrooms. Most of them teach kids of many ethnicities in English as a second language classes. That's where many new Canadians learn about our culture for the first time.
It's important that kids that are coming in to Canada from other countries that develop positive attitudes and a good understanding of the issues. Also to quickly try to ensure that they don't develop negative stereotypes about particular groups.
Teachers attending the 2-day seminar are learning real techniques to create harmony in the classroom. Val Guy is one of the conference organizers.
Sit down with our administrators, sit down with our community groups, and get the entire community involved and get them more socially aware that the potential is there for big problems.
Guy uses stories, guest speakers, and cultural show-and-tell sessions to give kids positive attitudes about other cultures. She says that type of education is a necessity in this province's multicultural classrooms.
If we don't go to to the grassroots and educate the children at an early level and educate their parents and have their parents involved in social tolerance of all groups, then problems can arise.
Educators say they're combating racism more effectively than ever before, yet they say more still must be done to counteract society's powerful negative messages about minorities to its children. In Winnipeg, Betsy Goldberg, Pulse News.
Come on, I'll introduce you. Still ahead tonight, what do Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston, and Annie Lennox have in common? They're all making news in the Pulse News Entertainment Report, and the details are coming up.
Frank Farmer, the bodyguard.
I think Rory should be my bodyguard.
Winnipeg police have issued a warning to parents after 2 young girls were accosted on city streets. Yesterday morning, a girl ran from a man trying to lure her into a navy blue pickup truck. Then in the afternoon, another man exposed himself to a 9-year-old girl near Kent Road School. Police are looking for the suspects. They're also asking parents to make sure their children exercise caution when it comes to strangers. A group of St. Boniface residents is worried about declining health care services for their kids. As of March 25th, the pediatrics ward at St. Boniface Hospital will be closing down. Kim Meads and her children use that hospital. Her twins were born at St. Boniface 8 weeks premature. Now, instead of going to St. B for further treatment, the children will be forced to go to the Health Sciences Center. St. Boniface will continue to admit kids for emergencies, but if they need a bed, they'll have to be moved to HSC. Residents are upset because originally the government told them 15 pediatric beds would stay open at the hospital. Now it appears the government has changed its mind.
Daughters at home who were both home from school last year. The oldest one's in school this year. But it would have been impossible for me to be... I was breastfeeding both the twins, so with the hospital being close enough, I could run back and forth, feed my older girls, go back and feed the twins, and go back and forth. Whereas if I would have had to go to the Health Science Center, there's no way I would have been able to be running back and forth and looking after my older children as well as looking after my babies in the hospital. And I think it's really important that people have a choice of what hospital they go to.
One footnote to that item, NDP health critic Dave Chomiak says the decision to send all kids to the Health Sciences Center will mean overflow conditions at that hospital and simply poor health care. Well, the president of the Manitoba Government Employees Union is denying talk of a split in the ranks. Peter Alford says members are unanimous in their disapproval of a shorter work week as suggested by the provincial government. Alford says that message became clear at a meeting on the proposal. The union will hold meetings throughout the province to keep members up to date on the government's plans, and Manitoba's largest union is also urging its 18,000 members to shun insurance brokers at Autopack renewal time. The Manitoba Government Employees Union believes the measure will save civil service jobs by cutting commissions paid to brokers. Union spokesman Doug Shattuck says it's a way of helping members save some jobs, but insurance agents say the union scheme is simply misdirected. Bill O'Brien of the Insurance Brokers Association of Manitoba says the union has done a grave disservice to its members. Well, members of the Rosa River Indian Band have ousted their chief. The council voted 8-3 in favor of demanding Lawrence Henry's resignation. Henry created waves last month when he expelled tribal police from the reserve for their part in gambling raids with the RCMP. Henry wasn't at the meeting, but says he will comply with the council's decision. He's been chief since 1991 and on tribal councils for 10 years. The vice chief will take over until a band election at Rosa River on March 16th. Well, a teenager in the town of Winkler, Manitoba, is in hospital with a case of meningitis. Manitoba's chief medical officer, Dr. John Guilfoyle, says it's the second case in the region. Guilfoyle says his department's trying to determine if the 16-year-old Winkler boy had come into contact with a patient in the town of Morden, Manitoba. People who have come in contact with that 16-year-old boy have been given antibiotics to keep the disease from spreading. British Columbia mining companies planning to drill for diamonds near Snow Lake, Manitoba. Dalton DePasquet is with Consolidated Newgate. His company is working with European backers on the project. DePasquet says the drilling will take place in the next couple of months. He says that there's a good supply of diamonds. Each drilling site could yield $1 to $2 billion per year. He says the industry estimates 30% of the world's diamonds will come from Canada by the year 2000. From diamonds in the rough to an industry of another kind, a conference in western Manitoba aimed at building up grain sales from this province to the U.S. Grain marketing and North American free trade will be playing a major role in years to come, as Wanda Salin reports.
When looking at the potential of Canadian grain and oilseed in the U.S. marketplace, the North American Free Trade Agreement must be considered. Mike Quisted, vice president of an agricultural company in Minneapolis, said when the Free Trade Agreement takes effect, farmers won't rely so much on the government for subsidies.
I am relatively optimistic that we'll see increased exports of canola, wheat, oats, and barley, and some other commodities into the U.S. in response to the Free Trade Agreement. Keep in mind, though, that the Free Trade Agreement is an agreement that's implemented over a period of 10 years, so the full effects of the benefits of the Free Trade Agreement really won't be felt for some time yet.
Bill Biederman, vice president of a research firm in Chicago, said with the agreement, Canadian farmers can look forward to greater markets and higher prices. But for now, we'll have to work at keeping input costs down.
And our message to the ag industry right now is to get involved politically, because if you can have a very major impact in the structuring of these policies right now. But we need to get organized. We're the largest economic sector, one of the largest economic sectors in any country, and yet we're terribly unorganized. Whereas the environmentalists are a very small part, but they're very well organized.
Gary Raicher, an oilseed and cereal farmer of Elgin, said he thinks the Free Trade Agreement will help Canadian farmers in the long run.
I think we're in a global economy right now, and we can't stay as one country dealing with all other countries. I think we have to deal in blocks probably more. We're seeing that in Europe, where they've had the European commodity or community for a number of years, and it makes sense that the North American continent should all be together and trading back and forth. We're closer to one another than everyone else, and it stands to reason that we should be able to get better prices dealing with one another. It should be better for everyone.
Wanda Salem, Pulse News.
Thank you, Wanda. Some major national developments today. Still ahead tonight, complete coverage of some new Canadian troop movements. Our peacekeepers are returning to Bosnia. We'll take a look at what they'll face there. And Ron's forecast is next.
Oh, it's going to be a frosty one tonight. -30 the low and about -19 the high tomorrow. Details coming up.
Your local Chrysler dealer wants to thank you with celebration packages. One specially ordered 1993 Dodge Spirit and Plymouth Acclaim. Complete with driver's side airbag, automatic, stereo cassette, no charge air, available 6-passenger seating, and now for a limited time, no charge rally wheels, stripes, moldings, and luggage rack. Precious metal, your choice, gold or silver. Dodge Spirit and Plymouth Acclaim, $13,593, gold or silver. It's our way of thanking you.
At Sabrin Seed Service, we understand that farming in the 90s is a tough job. To make your operation successful, you need every advantage you can get. At Sabrin Seed Service, we're here to help. We've been in business for close to 50 years, and we're carrying on the tradition of supplying our customers with top